Hello, and welcome to episode number 18 of the Holistic Lifestyle Guide podcast. In this episode, I'm going to talk about a way that you can improve your mental health. This is a really fun way that I love. It's actually many ways, but the subject is using the five senses. So, why do we need to improve our mental health in the first place? Well, obviously, this is a easy question to answer because most people nowadays, they have a lot of stress and anxiety, and there's so much negativity in the news. There's an overall declining of health in general. It's just hard to go through a single day without feeling overwhelmed by all of this. So you might feel like your mental health is out of control and there is not enough you can do about it. And so one of the things that I love to talk about in my business is obviously mental health, because that's one of the three pillars of holistic health. So we're going to focus all about mental health today and how you can improve that using the five senses. So the first thing I want to say is you might have heard of the saying, you are what you eat. Well, it's also true that you are what you see, hear, taste, smell, and feel. Your five senses build your experience of life. Just like a bad diet or a lifestyle that is detrimental to your health, everything else that enters into our experience through the five senses, it can make or break our health as well. So I want to talk about the importance of controlling what types of input are going into your senses. This is one of the few things that we can control. It is also something that I have noticed goes unnoticed by most people. So you have to start with mindfulness so you can be aware of the quality of the sensations that you are allowing into your body. So I have a blog post about this, and I will leave a link in the show notes to that so you can see this chart that I made. It's an easy way to see at a glance the different types of input and sensations that should be avoided, along with the types that you should include in your life every day. So in this episode, I'm going to just talk about these rather than show you the chart. Obviously, I can't show you that, but if you want to see it, it's really just a written out version of what I'm about to say. So we're going to start with the sense of sight. So as you can tell, or as you've probably seen by watching the news, there are a lot of negative things that you can see. There's always videos of violence, of wars and things like that. So this is why I'm a huge proponent of not actually watching the news, but reading your news online. And there's a multitude of reasons why that's better. But anything that goes into your eyes, like I said, with this whole subject of the senses, it affects your mental health. So if you watch some violence or somebody being, attacked or dead bodies, that kind of thing is going to imprint into your brain. So that's one of the reasons why I don't watch the news. I get my news from reading online. Of course, you can also read the newspaper, but, and now that I think about it, they actually do have images. So if you're watching or if you're reading it online, you might have the same problem, but there's some ways that you can read it without seeing the pictures, whatever you can do to cut down to seeing those images. So some other things that you can see that are negative for your mental health is clutter. And that's something that brings me to the subject of minimalism for mental health. That's actually something that's very good for mental health, is owning less things, but that's a whole nother subject, of course. But actually the act of seeing clutter laying around, that is bad for your mental health because your brain is actually trying to process all of those things. I don't remember the number, but your brain actually processes hundreds of thousands of bits of data every day. And so we have something that's called I believe it's called the reticular activation system, and it's usually called RAS for short. And what this does is it filters, it's just a filter that only, lets you be aware of the things that are important. So let's say you walk into a room and there's garbage piled to the ceiling. It's just, just clutter and garbage and just junk. So your brain is in overwhelm, and it's literally, it does see everything, but it doesn't, it knows that you don't need to see everything. So it's working hard to filter all of that stuff. Now, and if you walk into a room that has soft lighting and a chair and a flower in a vase, then of course your mind is going to be almost relaxed. It's going to feel relief that doesn't have so much to process. So this is why clearing the clutter is something that I talk about a lot. And that's something that if you really want to work on your mental health, you should focus on making sure that your house isn't cluttered. Now, of course, you can't be perfect about it. Who can have a room with one object in it? But do the best you can, and at least maybe try to put all the small things in drawers, cabinets, closets, and things like that. And that goes for messes as well. Messes is one of those things that, if you look around and you see some water splashed or something got spilled or some crumbs, that's going to make you, it might even be subconscious to you. You might see it, but you might not think about it, but your brain is seeing it. So everybody loves being in a clean space. So that's another thing to take care of. So some other negative things that you can see that are not good for your mental health are garbage, colors that you don't like, bright fluorescent lighting and blue light, excessive looking into the TV, phone, computer screens. Of course, that's bad for your eyesight too. And all those things mess with your circadian rhythm. And so there's many benefits to not seeing blue light and fluorescent lighting. Of course, you can't help that if you work in a place that has fluorescent lighting, which most of them do. So that's something to think about. If you really are concerned with how that light is affecting you, look for a job where that won't be an issue. Excessive up close reading will also affect your eyesight. So that was kind of a recap of the negative things. So now we're going to go into some positive things that you can look at that will help your mental health. So obviously the main one that you probably are thinking of is nature scenes, like flowers, clouds, things like that. Everybody just loves nature scenes because that's what our bodies are. We are part of nature, and to be immersed in nature, that's the ultimate. That's the ultimate way to make all of your senses in tune with nature. And so some other ones that are positive to see are clean areas, like I already talked about. People that are smiling, minimal things in your space, like I mentioned that too, organized things, your favorite colors, calm colors like amber lighting, which is where the blue light's been removed. That's really good for your eyes at night. Candlelight, campfires, things like that. And looking into the distance regularly, that's really good for your eyesight too. Don't just always be looking at things up close. So now I'm going to move on to the sense of hearing. So there's lots of negative noises that will affect your mental health. Of course, loud noises is one of those, and that's one of the reasons why I think it's healthier for people to live in a small town, a rural area where you're not constantly listening to engines running and traffic sounds and things like that. So another thing that you might not have thought of that is detrimental to our mental health as far as hearing is listening to people argue, or, just negative talk from others. That's stressful. Negative talk from yourself is one of those too. So be careful what you are saying in your mind. So basically a constant barrage of negative noises and sounds with no breaks. This is really important. It's really important to take breaks that, the thing with solitude. I have a blog post and a podcast episode about how solitude is healthy for you. And this is because you are, you're extracting yourself from all of the noises of the world. So another thing that I can mention here is music that you don't like. So, hearing music that's, not your favorite will affect you negatively. So then what are some positive sounds that you can listen to? Obviously, your favorite music, calm music, nature sounds, or just being out in nature if you can, pleasant conversations, Affirmations, those are a good one because, like I said, there's negative self-talk, but if you change that around and do positive self-talk, that's pretty much what affirmations are. Also, guided meditations are good too to listen to because they have many benefits. And of course, one of the best things that I like to talk about as far as hearing is silence. Like I said, if you, this is a self-care thing. If you have enough solitude in your life, just listening to silence, well, that will go a very long way. So now we're going to move on to the sense of smell. Now, you might not think that this one's very, profound when it comes to how it affects your health, but it really is. So let's say, you walk into a room and you smell rotting food or garbage in there or musty rooms, moldy areas. That's, going to affect you. And also there's a thing called off-gassing that comes from paint and carpet and new building materials and things like that. So if you walk into a new house that's just been redone or something like that, you're going to smell all of that stuff. And that might smell good at the time, like the new car smells good. But the off gases that come from that can affect your health negatively. So what you want to do is this is something that you have to work on, smelling good smells. So you have to kind of do these yourself. You can't just expect, maybe if you're walking around in nature, that's the only way you don't have to do much effort, but you might need to burn candles, incense. You might want to have an essential oil diffuser going. You might want to clean a lot, make sure that your area is clean. And also something you can do is have a bonfire or a campfire. Those smells, although smoke is not healthy, but it's at least a natural smell, and it's a smell that relaxes people. I think most people, when they smell a campfire, they just get relaxed because it reminds them of camping. So also flowers, nature, the smell of rain is really good. The smell of food cooking or baking, there's a lot of obviously good benefits to having good food smells, especially the smell of cinnamon and the smell of, like chocolate chip cookies baking in the oven. That's something that's going to affect your health in a great way. So I'm going to move on to taste. Now, obviously, most people don't put things in their mouth that they don't like. So this is something that, you usually have control over this. You probably don't want to eat food you don't like. You don't want to eat burnt food. You don't want to eat rotten, rancid food or water. You want to eat a lot of your favorite food, clean water, fresh food, and spices and herbs. And that's a whole nother subject, but spices and herbs is, I think, the best way to make food taste good that you normally don't like. And these are mostly healthy foods that people don't like vegetables, leafy greens. I mean, who wants to just eat that straight out of the ground? So of course you need to make them taste good. And if something tastes good, you will eat it more often. So use herbs and spices. So now I'm going to move on to the last sense, which is the sense of touch, feeling. So obviously, you do not want to touch things that are uncomfortable, that are scratchy, or, like clothing that's scratchy and itchy, uncomfortable things like shoes that don't fit, things that are too cold or too hot, or skin products that are irritating, anything that makes you feel uncomfortable or irritated. These are things you want to avoid. And you might think this is common sense, like a lot of these things, but you'd be surprised at how many of your, how many items in your wardrobe are made of scratchy material or don't fit correctly. And even your bed or chairs, these are something to think about as well. So when you want to change the things that you feel to be positive things, you can think about soft clothing material, comfortable clothing, comfortable shoes, comfortable chairs, a comfortable bed, taking baths, even, things that are comforting for your skin, lotion, things like that. Things that are the right temperature. So if you're somebody that's always cold, you're going to want to find, things that are going to help you stay warm and vice versa. So I think I've covered all of the ones that I mentioned in that chart. So if you are interested, I have a mental health workbook that covers a lot of these things. It helps you implement these practices into your life, having, getting rid of the clutter and things like that. So I'll leave a link down below in the show notes for that, because that can help a lot when it comes to your mental health. So I really hope this episode was helpful to you. And if you enjoyed this, then please send this to someone that you think this would also help. Now, this is something that a lot of people don't think about when they're thinking about their mental health. They usually want to, go to a therapist or something like that. But altering your five senses from positive to negative, from negative to positive, will really make a drastic difference in your mental health. So be sure to share this with anyone that might get some benefit out of it. And thank you so much for listening.